She opened the door without knocking. Then everything stopped. HFY read it. The station had been quiet in the careful way only powerful places ever were. Not peaceful, not calm, just controlled. Every sound inside the Galactic Concord Research Station was measured, logged, and permitted. Doors opened only after clearance. Meetings began only after protocol. Nothing happened by accident. Inside the Central Council chamber, representatives from 12 alien civilizations sat in a wide circle. The room was designed to make everyone equal, though it never truly did. Some species were larger, some smaller. Some breathed gas mixtures that fogged the air around them. Some glowed faintly with bioluminescence. At the far edge of the room sat the humans. They were given the same seats as everyone else, but everyone knew they were not truly equal here. Humans were newcomers, clever, adaptable, but reckless. That was the common belief. Useful for engineering problems, dangerous for anything else. Dr. Alina Ward sat straight in her chair, hands folded, eyes focused on the floor projection in the center of the chamber. Data streams flowed across it, energy fluctuations, star movement predictions, probability curves. She understood most of it. That was her job, systems analysis, seeing how many small things connected into one big disaster. The council leader, a tall crystalline being from Orcs, was speaking in a slow, echoing tone. The probability of regional collapse increases by 7% each cycle, it said. This is unacceptable. We must restrict further experimental research, especially by less disciplined species. Alina kept her face neutral. She had learned long ago that defending humanity in this room only made things worse. Time manipulation had been banned for centuries. Too many stars lost. Too many timelines torn apart. The rule was simple: do not touch causality. Humans had followed the rule, mostly. Alina shifted slightly in her seat. Something felt off. She could not explain it, but the data streams in the projection were stuck. Not frozen exactly, just repeating the same micro-adjustments over and over. She frowned. Then the door opened. It was not supposed to. The council chamber door was a massive layered structure, sealed during sessions. It required multiple biometric confirmations and advanced scheduling. Even emergency entry triggered alarms. There were no alarms. The door simply slid open. A young human woman stepped inside. She wore a maintenance jacket, dark blue with the human insignia stitched on one shoulder. Her hair was pulled back in a loose tie. She held a data tablet under one arm as if she had walked into the wrong room by mistake. Several council members turned, irritation already forming. The Orcs leader began to speak. This session is. A floating dust particle hung motionless near the ceiling. The projection in the center of the room stopped updating, numbers half-formed. Alina felt it before she understood it. Her breath caught, but she could still breathe. Her heart hammered, but it still beat. She looked around slowly. Every other being in the chamber was frozen. Mouths open, eyes unblinking. Limbs locked in unfinished movement. One avian delegate hovered slightly above their seat, wings half spread, suspended in place. Time was not slow, it was gone. Alina stood up. Her chair scraped softly against the floor, the sound loud in the absolute silence. She froze, half expecting alarms or guards to appear. Nothing happened. She was moving. Her mind raced. Panic tried to rise, but years of training pushed it down. Observe first, react second. She turned toward the door. The young woman was still standing there, relaxed, as if nothing unusual had happened. She looked around the frozen chamber with calm eyes. "You're Alina Ward," the woman said. Her voice worked. Alina swallowed. "Yes, you're not frozen." "Neither are you." The Orcs leader's crystalline structure caught the light, every facet locked in perfect stillness. "This is time manipulation," Alina said quietly. "That's impossible. Every safeguard." Junior technicians did not walk into sealed council chambers. They did not stop time. "This station is protected by layers of causal locks," Alina said. "Even thinking about doing this should trigger." "You're saying we're outside it." She thought of history, of near misses, of disasters that should have happened but didn't, of wars that collapsed under unlikely coincidences, of research paths abandoned just before catastrophe. Her voice dropped. How long? Why now? Causality bending under too many corrections by too many hands, not human hands. Small changes, big effects. But we're the only ones who learned the final lesson. When time resumes, it will resume cleanly. You're asking me to be part of this. Maybe that was what they looked like from the inside of time. She raised her eyes to Mara. Show me, she said. Mara nodded. And somewhere far beyond the frozen station, the universe waited to blink again. Alina felt no movement when Mara stepped forward, yet the space between them seemed to fold. The frozen chamber faded like a held breath released. The statues of the council blurred, stretched, and then vanished. They stood somewhere else. There was no floor, yet Alina felt supported. No sky, yet there was light, soft and colorless, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. Thin lines like threads drifted around them, glowing faintly. Some were straight, others twisted, split, or trembled as if under strain. Alina stared, heart pounding. Where are we? She reached toward one of the threads but stopped herself. And the shaking ones? They stay inside time, they push from within, small nudges, a failed engine here, a delayed message there, enough changes and the future bends. Images formed along it, star systems, fleets, meetings, decisions. Alina saw a council not unlike the one they had just left, saw secret facilities hidden inside dead moons, saw experiments disguised as simulations. They believe they're being careful, Mara said. They believe they're smarter than the past. We broke time once. Asked questions time couldn't answer cleanly. And we remembered. The threads around them pulsed softly like a living thing. You opened the door, Alina said. That was planned. And what happens after this? Broken timelines folding in on themselves, reality thinning like worn fabric. This is the likely path, Mara said, if no one intervenes. Humanity disappears, she said softly. Mara did not deny it. From the center of things, yes. Perspective, oversight, humans who remember what it feels like to live inside time. When time resumes, Alina said, the council will continue as if nothing happened. Remind us why restraint matters. Exactly. We remove the cause, not the people. Alina gasped as the council chamber snapped into motion. Voices resumed mid-word. Lights flickered. Data streams updated as if nothing had happened. She was sitting in her chair. Her hands were folded. No one was looking at her. The door was closed. The Vierk's leader continued speaking, unaware that anything had changed. Alina's heart raced, but her face stayed calm. Across the chamber in the human section, Mara sat 2 seats away. To anyone else, she looked like an ordinary technician who should not have been there. For a brief moment, Mara glanced at Alina. She nodded once. Alina nodded back. The meeting went on. Outside the chamber, time flowed forward, unaware that humanity had just stepped fully into the space between seconds and chosen to guard it. The changes did not announce themselves. There were no alarms, no grand signs that the universe had shifted direction. Things simply began to happen differently. Alina noticed it first in the reports. She sat at her workstation days after the council meeting, scanning probability updates that no one else seemed worried about. Trade disputes cooled without explanation. Pirate raids failed because ships arrived minutes too late or found empty routes. A border skirmish dissolved after a commander hesitated at the wrong moment. To everyone else, it was coincidence. To Alina, it was pattern. She did not speak about it openly. She couldn't. Instead, she waited for the pauses. They came without warning. She would be mid-sentence, mid-step, mid-thought, and then the world would fall silent. Not violently, gently, like a breath being held. The first time after the council meeting, she panicked. Her pen froze above her tablet. The hum of the station vanished. The stars outside the viewport locked in place, and Mara was there. Easy, Mara said softly. You're doing fine. As needed, Mara replied. Sometimes often, sometimes not for years. Which tremors were harmless and which would spread like cracks through glass. This one, Elena said, pointing to a bright, unstable thread. What is it? Elena saw a council of military leaders not the same as before, less patient, more desperate. They planned to test their theory, Mara said. A controlled strike, something undeniable. Not if we intervene. We remove one. They'll start tracing patterns. A fleet that should have moved stayed docked. On Earth, no one knew how close disaster had come. On the station, rumors spread. Alien analysts whispered about probability drift. Scientists argued over models that no longer fit. Some blamed faulty data. Others blamed sabotage. The council called emergency sessions. Elena sat through them all, face calm, mind racing. They are afraid, the Vierks leader said, crystalline tones sharper than before. Events no longer follow expected paths. A steady awareness like a hand on her shoulder. The pauses came more often now. Sometimes Elena was alone with Mara, sometimes with others. She met a man who had been a farmer on Mars before becoming a watcher. A woman who once studied linguistics and now helped shape first contact outcomes before they happened. None of them wore uniforms. None of them looked powerful. They argued. A lot. That change was too large, Elena snapped during one pause. It prevented a war, another watcher replied. It also destabilized 3 economies. Because it's getting easier for you. Not hostile, careful, afraid. They requested a meeting with humanity alone. The human ambassador hesitated but agreed. Elena was not invited. Time stopped anyway. Mara appeared beside Elena as she sat in her quarters. This is it, Mara said. They know, Elena replied. They suspect, Mara corrected. They want confirmation. If you confirm it, everything changes. Preventing outcomes. It is the only one you need, the ambassador said calmly. We act only to prevent collapse, nothing more. Of responsibility. Let them choose, she said, not with proof, with outcomes. Fleets arrived after conflicts had already dissolved. Weapons failed harmlessly. Plans unraveled quietly. No one was erased. No one was punished. Only causes were removed. Elena felt the weight of it every day. One pause, she stood alone among the threads, watching a particularly damaged one slowly heal. Are we doing the right thing? She asked aloud. Mara appeared beside her. We're doing the least wrong thing, Mara replied. Elena nodded. That may have to be enough. Slowly, reluctantly, civilizations learned a new truth. Something was watching, something patient, something human. And for the first time in its long history, time itself began to feel afraid, not of destruction, but of disappointing the ones who guarded it. Elena had learned to move quietly through the station, aware of the invisible weight she now carried. The world outside continued, unaware of the subtle corrections happening behind the scenes, but inside, the threads of reality pulsed under her careful gaze. Every action she and Mara took shaped futures without anyone knowing. It was a strange kind of power, one that required patience more than strength, understanding more than bravery. They moved through a corridor where the walls seemed to hum faintly with the memory of all decisions past and future. Mara walked beside her, calm and focused, but Elena felt the tension in the air. She had been part of several pauses now, witnessing the careful adjustments humanity made to prevent disasters, wars, and collapses of entire star systems. And yet she understood that this was only the beginning. The galaxy will start noticing patterns soon, Mara said, her voice quiet but steady. Some will fear us, some will want to destroy us, and some will want to join us. Our true power is restraint, intervention only when absolutely necessary. But Elena saw the underlying currents, the tiny changes that prevented disaster. She could trace the paths of fleets that were diverted from fatal battles, of leaders who hesitated just long enough to avoid catastrophe. Look there, Mara said, pointing toward a distant system. The Haxari fleet is about to launch a strike against a developing colony. If we do nothing, thousands will die, and the ripple effect could destabilize the sector. How do we stop them? Elena asked. Not by force, Mara said. By removing the cause, subtle changes, small delays, nothing permanent, no one dies, no one suffers. Authorization signals were delayed, fuel shipments rerouted, communication systems misdirected. In every case, no one would ever know that a disaster had been averted. Time resumed naturally, and the Haxari fleet never reached its target. The colony remained untouched, unaware of how close it had come to annihilation. Elena felt a mixture of relief and unease. Each intervention was invisible to the universe, but she could feel the tension in reality itself, like a held breath slowly exhaling. They returned to the threads and continued monitoring. Every sector of space, every political negotiation, every hidden weapon facility, each became a point of observation. Humans like Elena and Mara were everywhere at once, moving between moments, seeing outcomes that no one else could, preventing disasters without altering lives unnecessarily. Do you ever wonder, Elena asked as they moved through a particularly intricate web of threads, if anyone will ever know what we've done? When wars end before they begin, when alliances survive impossible odds, when systems flourish despite the chaos, they will sense a presence guiding them, even if they don't see it. The temptation to act boldly, to reshape history on a grander scale, was there. But Mara's calm restraint reminded her that true strength lay in patience. Weeks passed in this delicate balance. Elena became adept at reading the threads, predicting outcomes and guiding events without leaving a trace. She saw entire fleets dissolve into harmless patrols, political assassinations averted through minor delays, economic collapses prevented by simple reroutes of resources. Humanity moved quietly, powerful yet invisible, a force of balance in a galaxy that did not understand its own fragility. One day, a new thread shimmered before Elena. It was unstable, crackling with energy that suggested immediate danger. She traced it quickly, her mind racing through the possibilities. A new coalition of alien species had discovered subtle anomalies in their systems. They suspected manipulation but could not locate the source. Their efforts to investigate were careful, cautious, but growing bolder with each passing cycle. "They're coming closer," Elena said, alarm creeping into her voice. Mara appeared beside her. "Not yet, but soon they will push too hard. That is when humanity will need to step in more directly." If successful, it could destabilize several sectors. She realized that the galaxy had underestimated human restraint. Intervention had to be precise, surgical, and invisible. Together, they worked through the probabilities. Authorization chains were subtly disrupted. Fleets were rerouted by delayed communication. Supply convoys encountered minor technical difficulties. Every adjustment prevented catastrophe without anyone noticing. Time resumed naturally. The coalition's strike never occurred. Confusion spread among its leaders. They argued, blamed one another, and retreated to reconsider their strategy. Elena watched the ripple effect spread through the galaxy. Systems stabilized. Economies recovered. Lives continued uninterrupted. "It's remarkable," Elena said quietly. "They have no idea how close they came to destruction." The galaxy would never know, yet every life that continued, every conflict avoided, every star system that survived, was a testament to human ingenuity and restraint. Days later, Elena found herself observing a council session that had resumed normally. Alien leaders spoke passionately about trade, security, and diplomacy. To them, the universe moved as it always had, unaware of the invisible hands guiding it. Elena felt a sense of satisfaction and sorrow. Satisfaction for the lives preserved, sorrow for the loneliness of their work unseen and unrecognized. Mara appeared quietly beside her. "Are you ready?" she asked. "For what?" Elena replied. "To become a watcher fully." to accept that this is our responsibility and that it may never be acknowledged. Their influence was invisible, yet it was the difference between survival and annihilation for countless civilizations. "I'm ready," Alina said. Mara smiled. "Good, then let us continue." Alina guided probabilities, adjusted outcomes, and observed the flow of events with careful attention. Humanity's presence was subtle, almost imperceptible, but its impact was profound. As they worked, Alina felt a strange sense of peace. They were not gods. They did not dominate. They guided. They preserved. And that was enough. Time resumed outside, ordinary and relentless. Fleets moved, trade routes bustled, planets rotated in their orbits. But beneath the surface, subtle corrections ensured that catastrophe was avoided. Wars that might have destroyed sectors never began. Alliances that should have failed survived. Leaders hesitated at the right moments. Lives continued uninterrupted. The galaxy thrived, unknowingly protected by humans who had learned to walk between moments. Alina realized that their work would never end, but that was the point. Guardianship required vigilance, patience, and understanding. It required seeing the consequences of actions before they became events. It required humanity's quiet presence in the cracks of reality. Alina and Mara paused to observe a system where multiple conflicts had almost converged. She traced the threads carefully, making subtle adjustments that prevented violence and preserved balance. A fleet that might have attacked never left its dock. A commander who might have struck first hesitated at the perfect moment. Trade resumed without interruption. Life continued seamlessly. Alina smiled faintly. "We're doing it," she said. "Yes," Mara replied. "We're proving that humans are more than recklessness. We are guardians of life, not just participants in it." The galaxy would never know who had guided it, but it did not matter. What mattered was that it survived, flourished, and continued to grow. Alina turned to Mara. "Do you think they'll ever understand?" Humanity's presence would remain invisible, its influence profound. They would continue to watch, to guide, to protect, and to ensure that the galaxy thrived. And in the quiet moments between the threads, Alina felt hope, not just for humanity, but for the universe itself. They moved forward together, guardians of time, invisible yet vital, patient yet powerful. And as the stars continued to spin in their endless orbits, Alina understood the truth. Humanity's greatest strength was not domination, nor conquest, nor fame. It was restraint, vigilance, and the quiet, unwavering commitment to protect all that mattered, even when no one else would ever know. The galaxy lived on, and humanity, hidden between the moments, would always be there to guard it.